Hi everybody, my name is Anna Goldenberg. I wanted to make a quick video just to tell you all about why crawling is so important and what is it that is making therapists so surprised about the fact that the CDC took off crawling from the list of required milestones in a child's development. So first, let's start with the concept of milestones. Milestones are not just something that comes up, we checked it off of our list and then it goes away. Crawling, like any other milestone, is actually more sequential. There are pre-crawling movements and there are benefits from crawling way into the future that therapists really trace back to see if the child crawled or not, and use crawling as part of like a treatment tool if certain areas associated with crawling are not strong enough in even elementary school. So crawling does affect a child's development going forward, and crawling is a product of the development leading up to crawling. So let's talk a little bit first about why is crawling so important. When a baby crawls, they are on their hands and their knees. First of all, that's called something called weight bearing. So the baby uses the force that they're pushing off of the floor to weight bear on their arms and knees, and this gives them proprioceptive input about their joints and the movements of their joints to their brain, which creates a sense of body awareness. So this proprioceptive input is what allows a person to know where their body is in space without looking at their body. The second thing that crawling is so important for is resistance and weight bearing exercise. Crawling is the only time in a child's development where they are able to strengthen their shoulder girdle muscles and their postural control muscles. So in the back of our shoulders, we have something called a scapula, which is that bone that looks like a wing. And around it, we have four main muscle groups. We have large muscle groups in our back, smaller muscle groups in our back, and muscles around our shoulders. And I'm not even going to begin to mention all the ones in the hips, but those two. A physical therapist will explain more about that. But when a baby crawls, they actually strengthen these anti-gravity back extensor muscles, the muscles that hold their head up, that hold their neck up, that allow them to look up and down easily, that allow their shoulders to move backwards into a beautiful posture. And these are the muscles that crawling actually works on. So when a baby skips crawling, they kind of miss out on the opportunity to naturally strengthen those muscle groups. The third thing that crawling is great for is reciprocal movement patterns. When a baby crawls, they kind of weight shift right, left, and they use their arms, legs in a very rhythmic manner. So first, these types of movements teach the brain about balance and activate core and trunk control muscles. And the reciprocal movements, they actually work on integrating our reflexes. So we have certain reflexes that emerge as a child develops, and as the child learns new movements, they integrate. So certain reflexes like the ATNR, STNR, the galant reflex, these are integrated through crawling. And what are they important for? Why is it important to have reflexes integrated? A child who has integrated reflexes could easily isolate body parts and movements in one position without activating accidentally other movements. A person whose reflexes are not integrated, they could potentially move their head to the right and their arm will move. And even if it won't physically move, their arm muscles will tighten, or there will be nerve firings to their arm, which will cause incoordination or difficulty or increased effort in fluid and rhythmic movements. So example that I see in elementary school is, for example, a child has difficulty copying the board, right? They need to move their neck from up to down in order to see the board, then see the paper, see the board, see the paper. So that is a neck movement that if the tonic labyrinthine reflex is not integrated, they're going to have difficulty keeping their balance, keeping that smooth transition from looking far and close, up and down. They're going to do this movement with extreme effort. So copying the text and learning the words that they're writing and seeing is going to be much more difficult for them than for a child whose reflexes are integrated. Same with other reflexes like STNR. If the child moves their head, or ATNR, if the child moves their head to one side, their arm is going to kind of tighten up, and that's going to create a difficulty with holding the paper, hand dominance, just multitasking, or even feeling calm and feeling confident within their bodies. So reflex integration is something that crawling affects majorly. And when a therapist sees a problem in school performance, we always kind of try to look back at reflexes, and we try to look back at these subcomponents that create the movements that a child needs to effortlessly do their work. So that's crawling itself. So another positive benefit of crawling, right, is other than strengthening at the shoulder and upper back muscles and the neck muscles, we also push off with our hands when we crawl. And if you look at the palm of your hand, you're going to see arches. You're going to see a well that looks like a cup in the middle of your hand. These are palmar arches. We have 3 palmar arches, and they are created to help you manipulate small objects with your hands without effort. So opposing your thumb to your fingers, tip to tip pinch, rotational directions of the fingers, these are all enabled. We're able to do them easily because of our palmar arches, and our palmar arches give us the structure of our hand that allows us to grasp, hold, squeeze with the right amount of ergonomic force. When a baby crawls, they develop these muscles in their hands and their palms, and they develop palmar arches. When a baby skips crawling, a therapist sometimes has to backtrack and develop these palmar arches for them through exercise. So these are just a few of the benefits that crawling has for children for the future development of their academic skills and just life. And there are also things that are there are factors that lead up to crawling. So a baby doesn't just suddenly wake up and say, I'm going to crawl today. Like I said, it's a sequence, and it's a sequence of movement development. When we put a baby to sleep on their back, we actually work on something called extensor tone. So we allow gravity to open up this baby, that their arms open, their legs open, they lie flat on the bed. When we put our baby on our tummy, we work on something called flexor tone. In a flexor tone position, the hips are raised, the knees are bent, the elbows are bent, the baby's laying on their forearms and their legs, they're pushing off, they're more scrunched, and in order to change their head, they have to lift their head position and rotate their head. So when they're laying flat on their tummy, they're pushing off with the cheek. So this gives them body awareness of where their body is in space. It strengthens their flexor tone. And this flexor tone, then when the baby gains strength in the flexor position, they push off, and that leads to crawling eventually. So how we position our baby as an infant is a big factor in whether they're going to crawl or not. So the CDC is saying that a lot of babies don't crawl, but the truth is we've really strongly advertised the back to sleep movement, where we put babies to sleep on their back. And because of that, parents have to be really conscious that during the day when the baby's supervised, to actually put the baby to lay on their tummy so that they could work on that flexor tone, so that they could crawl, so that they could get all the future benefits of crawling on child development. So I hope that was like a brief, good summary of how important crawling is for children, and what to do to promote crawling in your babies. And if you have any questions, please message me. Please reach out to me on Facebook, on Instagram. I'm happy to help. Of course, there are ways to promote crawling in children and babies who don't crawl. There's ways to test reflexes. There's ways to see how a baby is using their muscles and backtrack or do something to increase their chance of success for the future in terms of movement and motor skills. And those movement patterns and motor skills then strongly affect academics. So as you could see, everything is so important and everything is so closely related. Please, parents, don't get confused by the new milestones that the CDC has released, and just remember that everything is great and everything is going to be great as long as we have the right information and do the right things for our babies in terms of movement, positioning, and child development. Okay.